An excerpt from Patrotis, Isle of Patreon by Captain Maria the Dragon Rider. It has been the experience of my lifetime to spend these months with others who value reading just as reverently as I do. But though their intelligence and wisdom inspire me, their humor terrifies me.
Good job.
Wiggity, welcome back to Between Pages and Friends, a book club podcast hosted by Con and Lauren, two besties who read a lot of books, and Jon and Kyle, our real-life shadow daddies. I'm Con.
I'm Jon.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Lauren. We're continuing Onyx Storm today from the Empyrean Series by Rebecca Yarros with chapters 29 through 40. This is a book club style podcast, meaning there will be no spoilers for future chapters. So if you've only read the first 40 chapters of Onyx Storm, this is a safe space to process while we discuss. Share this pod with your book besties and peer pressure them to read with you too.
Additionally, this is your mild trigger warning. Onyx Storm is a new adult book, meaning it was written for audiences 18 and up. Therefore, our conversations about this book are also best suited to adults. We'll be discussing themes and quotes from this section that include trial by combat, trial by political conversation at the dinner table, and trial by close-up card tricks.
In case you missed it, we've recently given our membership tiers a makeover in honor of our first birthday on Patreon. Our $5 tier is now called Book Bestie, where we invite you to be one of our book besties by being in our book club, joining us for live bookish events, talking all things bookish in our exclusive Discord, and more. Our $10 tier is now called Found Family, where you are not only one of our book besties with all of those perks, but we invite you to join our Found Family and get early ad-free podcast episodes, merch discounts, and voting privileges on upcoming books and events, plus so much more. Check out our Patreon and see which tier fits you best today.
And if you'd like to get to know us in person, you should come with us to Enchanticon 2025. From August 15th to 17th in St. Louis, Missouri, the four of us will be attending Enchanticon as event influencers. We'll be leading the Fandom Foundations for the Throne of Glass series, joining you for tons of super fun, super nerdy sessions about all things fantasy, and dancing the night away at the Far, Far Away Ball. You should totally use our code. It's FRIENDS15, and you will get 15% off your ticket at enchanticon.com. See you there.
Lastly, the best way to support any podcast is by writing a review on Audible or Apple Podcasts. It only takes a moment, makes a lasting impact, and helps our show reach more book besties. Here's a recent 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from our new bestie, Maria the Dragon Rider. Best Bookish Podcast. I've loved this podcast since y'all started Throne of Glass. Favorite series. I love laughing aloud to the quips on the characters and random moments, which bring me back to each scene. Fourth Wing has a lot of hidden pieces I apparently missed out reading myself. Being able to read together really helps in being able to enjoy the same book together. Biggest thing I need more of, counselor insight. Thank you, Maria.
Nice.
Love that.
Like diarrhea. That's like diarrhea.
Thank you, Maria.
That's so nice, Captain Maria.
And she's already a dragon rider. Like, she's so cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, dang.
Wow.
She has answers.
They
that
grow
we
up
need.
so fast.
What kind of dragon you
Oh,
got,
yeah.
girl? Wait. Hold on a second.
Kyle almost just spit out his drink.
I don't even, like, I was trying to think of what that could possibly mean.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not sure.
Well, it's time for Con's Declassified Fantasy Pronunciation Guide. This week, kicking it off with places, we have Aistol, the capital of Umbriel. Another form of Umbriel is Umbrish. And then Vidiris is the capital of Hedotis. And things from Hedotis are referenced as Hedotic. Zortris is the capital of Zelna, and things and people from Zelna are referred to as Zilni. And then Amaralis, the official name of the continent, though Peromish records called it Amalekis, and the only name they ever agreed to call it after the Great War was the continent, which is what we've known it as this whole time. In characters, we have Costa, Marlise, and Palta. These are the three warriors chosen to fight Xaden, Violet, and Dane in Umbriel. Marlise, we then find out, is the queen of Umbriel.
Go off, queen.
The Go off, queen. The triumvirate of Hedotis is comprised of Ferris, Nairi, and Rosalind. Talia is Ferris's wife and Xaden's mom. Boo. I was hoping for a collective boo, but I guess I should have made that. It's fine, just me.
Your boo is great.
Let's try it again. Talia is Ferris's wife and Zayden's mom. Boo. You're still not going to do it.
That would be funny.
Editor.
No, keep it in. That was great. That's good.
Okay. And Grandma Niara, Violet and Mira's paternal grandmother. In text and excerpts, we have Public Notice 200.417, transcribed by Rachel Lightstone. Hedotus, Isle of Hedion, by Captain Asher Soren Gale. Zelna, Isle of Zinal, by Major Asher Soren Gale. And then Public Notice 634.23, transcribed by Percival Fitzgibbons. In Dragons and Griffins, we just have Cyrillane this week, the Griffin of Traeger Carus, R.I.P. In Events and World Building, we have Lauren Salve, which helps with inflammation and fighting off minor infection. Go,
Yes,
Lauren.
yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Villagite is a mineral prevalent on the Isle of Hedotus that turns paler eye colors purple. And then Zakia berries are used to poison Zaddy's birthday cake at dinner. Also, boo. That's all I have for you this week. Here's John with the chapter recaps for this crazy chapter section.
What a crazy chapter section it was. I'm so excited. All right, yes, as they prepare to leave for the Isles, Xaden and Halden get into it a little bit, and then Arik reveals himself to Halden's surprise. And then they finally fly off to Umbriel. They make camp in a clearing. During their rest, Vi and Mira have a little chat. Vi asks Mira where she went off to when she took leave, and Mira went to go visit their grandmother. Violet initially thought that their grandmother stopped talking to her parents, but apparently it was the other way around. And Mira suggests to Vi that she go speak to her herself. The next morning, while still sleeping, they're greeted by soldiers who eventually escort them to the city. They arrive and are escorted to the temple. In the front are pillars which represent all tools of warfare, and Violet notes that one is book. That's what she says. The temple attendants also have all, I don't know how else to say it. It's weird. I don't know. Including book. There's like war and shield. I don't.
Yeah, it
It wasn't plural. I know. It sounds kind of stupid saying it out loud. Anyway, the temple attendants also all have silver hair, and Violet even sees one little girl with silver-tipped auburn braid just like hers. A general and priestess greet them and ask if they truly want to speak to their queen. Of course they do, and their test on this isle is a battle of the quote-unquote best warriors. Arik tries to step in for Xaden, but obviously nobody's having that. Xaden steps up, but then Dane is chosen to fight unexpectedly, and then followed by Violet. So they each have a battle, and it's best of three. They begin. Dane gets knocked out. Violet gets the upper hand against her opponent, but is directed to Xaden, about to lose, and she flicks her dagger, giving him an opening, which he takes and uses to win. And Violet also gets her opponent to yield, and they get their 2 out of 3. Violet gets an immediate audience with the queen, who she just bested, by the way, but their price to aid in the war is too high, as they want dragons, 12 dragon eggs to be exact. But they're obviously not going to do that, so their time on Umbriel is pretty much at an end. Although Violet is met with more questions than answers after possibly wielding their splitting stone with lightning and the whole like silver hair thing. Oh, plus a comment from the queen about Violet's dedication. Who knows? Then they fly off to Hedotus and find a beach to land on. As they're dismounting and getting settled, some people approach from the isle. The man greets them and introduces his family, starting with his wife. And wouldn't you know it, she recognizes Xaden, and Xaden replies, "Mom?" They end up staying at his mom's house for a bit to rest up, possibly meeting with their leaders later. Xaden's mom tries to talk to him, but Violet's being a great buffer, protecting my boy!
My boy!
My boy!
My boy!
My boy! Thank you. Yeah, you guys really show up for me. Thanks.
You got
She-
me, John. Connor's just out of here. Come back, Connor. Okay, good.
His mom invites him to dinner, and Violet basically goes to him with that proposition, but she basically says that she can't decide something like that for him. Sigale is also all worked up, but we're not really sure why, since they can't communicate. They overhear that the triumvirate is coming to dinner, and also that his mom has a couple of kids, and that she is sending the kids away before they arrive. Vi asks Andarna to follow them, invisible as she can. Then Xaden agrees to dinner with his mom. They all attend for dinner, which is where this aisle's testing begins. They start by asking them a lot of questions. They're like getting an idea of the why behind like some of their decisions, such as arranged marriages for heirs. Like that was a big conversation piece, et cetera, et cetera. Apparently, once one of them is satisfied with an answer, they place a jade stone by their plate. While talking about marriage, Xaden tells them to draw up papers for the morning to marry Violet. Then Mira gives a great little monologue and gets them their first jade stone. Then Art gets them another one. Now it's Ferris's turn as dessert is served. And what is it but none other than chocolate cake, which Rosalind mentions that Talia has been hoarding chocolate for weeks. And Violet quickly figures out that Talia knew that they were coming, knew Xaden was coming, possibly by Cortland. So the act on the beach about her being surprised was all fake. Violet tries to find the answer for this and figures out that something's wrong with the cake. Only it's too late for Garrick as he eats most of his and collapses, not breathing. She reaches out to Taryn. Chad is okay, which means Garrick isn't dead yet. They try to get him to breathe while Talia is in shock about what Ferris has done. But Violet has the last laugh. She also poisoned them with the Aaron mint tea. So their clock is ticking as well. But Ferris isn't budging on telling them what he spiked the cake with or an antidote. So Violet gives orders and heads to find the cook with Riddick. Only he's a squirrely little man, and while she gets an answer that it's something blue and has to do with the Eris birds, he stabs Riddick. But only through his tunic and jacket. Thankfully, he's okay. They make their way back up, and Dane has her dad's journals where she finds a note on the fruit and the antidote. They make it all happen, and Garrick is okay.
He is okay.
Fucking Looney Tune or something? What's going on here?
The Little Rascals.
Garrick is okay.
And Garrick is okay. He's going to be just fine.
Garrick is okay.
What a freaking idiot. Okay.
Keep that. I love it.
All right. They make it all happen, and Garrick is okay. Then Violet uses her leverage of Andarna quietly keeping tabs on Ferris's sons to get him to comply, and I guess they have their first alliance. And apparently Xaden's mom is never heard from again. I'm assuming at this point. I don't know. That just ended very quickly. They left. They head to the next aisle, Zelna, and meet a very warm greeting. Cheers and applause and all that, almost like entering a stadium. And then Taryn gets a whiff of magic. And after that disaster at Hedotus, we get some nice friendly people, but with some more customs our fearless friends must complete. This time they have to pick a card to receive a gift and not complain about whatever they receive. Easy enough, right? Bottle of wine, rusty bucket, arrow to the heart. Arrow to the heart? Oh, damn, Traeger's dead. And Sela shortly after. They decide to take their bodies to one of the minor isles to burn them together before continuing on. They make it to an isle and commend Traeger and Sela to Malik. Then they figure out where they are, and Violet splits the group up into teams to search some more isles in their immediate vicinity before meeting back at that spot. As the groups take off, Violet and Riddick are left while Andarna finishes her rest. Riddick heads off into the trees when Violet feels the ground tremble and sees the sand moving in front of her. As she repositions in front of Andarna, 6 dragons appear out of thin air, and one in front of her speaks. "Hello, human."
The hand motions were really nice with that, John.
It's really old, scraggly dragon. Hello. Anyway, it's probably more like, "Hello, human." It's actually a witch, not a dragon. What are you doing in my isles? Anyway.
Yes, chapter 29.
Chapter 29 kicks it off. So
29?
29. Wow, 29. Look at that. All right. There's a mention of Traeger's healing training here, and I just wrote that was pretty cool, that I wish we knew more about it. But as I was circling back to this, after my initial note, I guess I assumed this had to do with magic, but it's literal physical healing. So yeah. I'm like, boy, that makes it a lot less exciting. I know how to stitch up and give you a Band-Aid. Thanks. Anyway. Yeah. Which isn't going to help him.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me just put a Band-Aid on the arrow.
On the arrow.
Not the injury. On the arrow.
Maybe that'll help.
My first note, I wasn't even going to write in here. It was just something random that I wrote down on my first read, but then I saw John's response to it in the Kindle app, and it made me laugh so hard that I put it in here. Violet promises Halden that she won't let anything happen to Auric, and he nods once and then says, I'll hold you to it. And then he looks at everyone like he makes direct eye contact, and it says the promise morphs into a threat. All of you. So on my first read, I wrote, is he coming back as like a villain later or something because of this moment? And then John's response was,
Yeah, right. This little chicken shit. No way.
I mean, maybe.
No way, Jose. Nah.
I just scurry off into his little basket.
Not this guy.
In his little basket. I do feel like at some point we'll end up at the like Navarian capital, like because we've not seen that, and the castle and the king and Melgrin, and maybe Halden will be part of that and be one of like. But I don't imagine him
I'm
being
sure he will.
the main villain.
No,
He's just,
I don't think so either. Be more of a fly home buddy kind of situation.
I work alone. If anything, I sort of took this the other direction where like this is another thing that people say in books where it's like I promise nothing will happen to them, and I'm like, oh, so something's probably gonna happen to them, you know, like.
Shh, don't say that. Not about Auric.
Not my boyfriend.
Your boyfriend.
Not anything, you know. It may not be death, but I mean, you know, something. And then Halden's gonna be mad about it
Yeah, an arm or a
because he's
leg.
gonna hold them all to it.
Wait, somebody already lost a leg. I don't think that would
An
happen
arm then.
again.
See, balance.
Yeah, I see. I understand.
You're logical.
Yes. Okay, so my first quote for tonight said, so with nothing to do for the next 8 hours, but hold on. I listen as Taryn recites the lore of his breed from the first of his line up to Thoreau, the first black dragon to ever successfully bond back during the Great War, and then stops. Apparently the story is no longer worth telling once humans are involved. So yeah, first of all, I do believe that is the first time we hear about one of the dragons' names of the first 6. So maybe that's a big thing. Does that, I know that you didn't have it in your pronunciation guide, but so like you didn't look it up, but does it have a meaning?
Ooh,
Is that
let's see.
something? But I do think it's interesting that he stops once the humans are involved, because we do kind of know that some of the dragons have given fake names or like presented fake names to the humans. So maybe it's like, does he not list it there because it wouldn't match record? Is he keeping some sort of secret? Or I don't know. It just feels like a really random spot.
Is he Thoreau?
From the
Yeah, maybe
very
he is.
first, that would be wild if they lived that
That's not-
long. But if they
No.
give different
It's only
names,
like 100.
they could just
Well,
like go away for a while and
it's
come
just
back with
what
a
he's
different
told
name.
by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it means anything.
Okay. All right. Anyways, I just feel like
Yeah, I don't know.
it's I don't know. When we know the dragons are keeping secrets about like specifically their names and what they're telling and stuff, it just feels really interesting that he would stop once the humans get involved. I don't want to think that Taryn's keeping like any secret, like evil secrets, but obviously he knows stuff that he's not saying. He knows a lot more than what he's saying. So
I agree.
I don't know. And then all of these notes, I'm just going to say them as if they deserve the energy and excitement that they do, and we can talk about something else later. So we're just going to ignore that fact for all of these notes. So this note says, then Cat and Traeger take off into the woods, and I highlighted that, and I went, ooh, oh, yeah. And then it said, to hunt while the riot launches. And I was like, oh, okay, well, they're just hunting. But still, it's just Cat
That's
and
what
Traeger.
they're calling it these days.
And then I do feel like this Grandma Niara side plot story thing just feels so random, but the fact that it feels so random probably means it was the most important thing that happened in this entire section. Is kind of usually how these books go. And that's my next, like, we waited so long for Papa Sorengale's research, and now I feel like I'm waiting for this conversation with Grandma Niara, and like there's going to be some major insight or something that we learn there. It just feels like so random for
Yeah.
it to be such a moment.
Yeah. And with the material of like the bracelet or whatever.
That like made her
Yeah.
think of the archives or smell books or whatever
Yeah.
she said. Yeah, I agree.
Parchment or something. I also am wondering if, I couldn't say this in the last episode, but I'm wondering if Niara is the Colonel Daxton who wrote the guide to excelling in the scribe quadrant. I don't know if it would be her specifically, but if she is
right.
like Asher's mom. I don't know if that timeline would work out either, but just curious about that. Or if it was maybe her parent or something.
Maybe he has a brother.
Twin.
Yeah, I would think it would maybe be someone older who would like wouldn't be at the like actively at the college they've been erasing history and writing new crap, so who knows?
Yeah.
Kaori is like currently writing the Field Guide to Dragonkind, I think. I think it's the same Kaori that's currently at the school, so it could be.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that it was Lilith and Asher that cut off ties. And I feel like they didn't do anything unintentional. Like, their whole life was very secret-y and
Yeah.
I don't know. So just something big is there. But we get this one little conversation about it, and then we move on, and then like all this major stuff happens. But that's how Sarah, oh my God, she does it too. But that's how Rebecca tricks us. So
It is. All right, chapter 30. We're starting with a little pre-chap.
Pre-chap blurb.
Oh, very nice.
Blurb.
Anything to add, Kyle?
This pre-chap blurb was brought to you by. We should
Viewers
do that
like
one time.
you.
Mood reader candles.
Yeah.
That should be the inserted ad.
Okay, this little pre-chap is from the Guide to Appeasing the Gods. And I just thought it was interesting because it talks about how unwise it is to favor one god above another in this jealous, prodigious pantheon. But like everyone on the continent and the Isles seem to only favor one specific god. So I don't
Especially
know
the
how serious
Isles.
that is.
It's like each one is
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
for a different god.
Right. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting to put here in the middle of like this isle hopping segment.
At the
I think I have
beginning of it.
something about this later as well.
Okay. But then Garrick's draw ticks. So cheers. We got a lot of these tonight.
Don't we always?
My next note here is when they get to Ystol, the capital of Umbriel, and Violet's kind of describing like what the city looks like. It says built in terraced circles, and it also describes them having like manned crossbolts on the walls and that they swing in multiple directions, which is different from the ones in Deverelli, which are more stationary. They can't go quite as far. And here Violet thinks this place is constructed to fight dragons, whether or not they've actually been here. And I thought this was so interesting because, like, why would they have such fortified defenses against dragons if they, like, never see them? I thought that was kind of weird. I was thinking, have they been fearing, like, retaliation since the rebellion failed and the event surrounding that? Like, were they afraid that, like, Navarre, you know, was going to, like, attack them or something? Or are they guarding against, say, wyverns?
Yeah.
Oh.
I
don't
mean-
know. Who knows?
It feels like
Maybe.
the logical thing that if the Dark Wielders win the continent or whatever, that they would go to the Isles. And that's kind of like Violet's whole argument when she's out there. So that would make sense that they would be protecting for that too if they thought through that process.
But this can kind of go into a later conversation about like the Isles and dragons. Connor was part of your
Okay.
note. We can maybe add a little bit to it here a little bit later.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay. So then Taryn says to Violet, I don't like your selection in mates, yet here we are. And at first I was like, does he mean like squad mates? And then on my second read, I was like, mates?
Mates? Mates?
Mates?
He said mates.
There's a couple of these in this chapter section.
It is interesting that he starts calling Xaden her mate.
Yeah,
just in
especially
this
while he's
one.
still calling him the Dark One.
Well, and I have a couple notes later where he talks about how he disapproves of her choice with him and like that
Right.
she's with the enemy and all the things. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Taryn needs to pick a side. Like,
Yeah.
Sounds like you did, honestly. Like,
yeah, but he's still calling her like the word mates is new, right? I feel like I would have
Yeah.
freaked out about
Well,
that before.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever said that before about any like humans.
Well, because even she like argues like humans don't mate, and he's like, because you're an inferior species or whatever he says. It's like a whole conversation through this whole chapter section.
Yeah.
It just feels important. Well, while they're walking in, we're getting like the description of the place and everything. And one of the things that Violet notices is that one of the chest plates has an etched symbol of two crossed swords gripped in the center by a claw. It's the emblem of Dune. And she was talking about how like it's really similar to theirs. And then Taryn kind of cuts her off, like focus now and analyze later, because it's like a whole thing. But Taryn is always cutting her off. Taryn is always the
is.
one stopping the information flow.
It's so bad in like those couple of chapters.
Like specifically on the Isle of Dune.
Yeah.
That is really interesting.
Well, yeah, because it seems she's the most connected with the Isle of Dune, or Dune, the
Right.
god itself. And so it's just interesting. But also, it just says a claw. And I was like, my note in Kindle was like a dragon claw, like a place that's defending against dragons and everything. Or is it like a claw of some other, like it doesn't tell us what creature,
That's interesting.
animal, or whatever it is. So
Yeah, he really does cut her off like every 5
So
seconds
much.
in when they're specifically on this isle, though.
Males, am I right?
Yes, you are. And then this is when Violet notices that there are blue-robed attendants rise on the temple steps, and then Violet's footsteps falter. Every single one of them has silver hair, not gray, not white, silver. And my note was, not me, not Hermione, you. Because that's how I read it, because it's like, not gray, period. Not white, period. Silver.
Oh, that's good.
She's going to sacrifice herself.
She's going to dedicate herself.
So reading this, obviously I've been on silver hair watch forever now. So this was just like, oh man, this is like a light bulb going off moment for me. So here I was like, okay, theorizing that Lilith might not be her biological mom. Like maybe she was kind of adopted
interesting.
somehow. And we'll leave it there because I have an amendment to that idea here a little bit later.
See, I kind of thought, because Asher's clearly been on these isles, that he brought Violet. Maybe.
Yeah.
And Violet just doesn't remember
little,
it.
Yeah, little something
So
about
you're
that.
saying he like got her from the isle. I was thinking he took her to said isle.
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I got a comment about it here a little bit later.
Okay.
All right.
Honestly, though, seeing the name Lilith right under this gift from Harry Potter, it just made me go, oh, poor Violet. Her dead mom, Lily, sacrificed herself out of love to save her.
That is true. That did happen.
Everything circle backs to Harry Potter.
It does. And now Violet
Everything.
has the silver hair and everyone knows who she is based off of that
You
one
would-
identifying
Yeah, that's right. See?
physical trait. Just
You
like
can connect it.
his scar.
Like lightning scar.
Whoa. Oh, that's so funny. I think John just buffered. I think he just froze.
Yeah.
And the whole continent is under siege by those who they do not name that begins with a V.
It all circles back.
Wow. Yep.
I actually have another Harry Potter reference later in
Exactly,
this episode. Oops.
Word stone, sorcerer's stone, who could say?
Okay, chapter 31. I'm hitting us with a pre-chap.
Blurb, 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 blurb.
That was amazing.
Nice. It was like a blurb ringtone.
Yeah, it's kind of like I was
know what
trying
I mean?
to go like sort of Seinfeldian with it.
Nice. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Seinfeldian. That's that word. So the pre-chap says, guardians are no longer permitted to dedicate children in service to their favored deity. The decision to serve the gods for life must be made after the age of majority and of one's free will. And this is public notice 200.417, transcribed by, you say, Rachel Lightstone.
Terrible name.
But first of all, do we know what number, like, public notice this is? Like, does that mean it's a really old one? Or is that more
It's
recent?
200.417.
Yeah. I thought it was
Okay.
200.417.
Oh my gosh.
Got it. Thanks, guys. So it's a long time
It's-
ago.
The first number is the year, so that would have been around the same time that Navarre was erasing history.
And the second number is the
Right.
area code. So the place that it was sent to.
We didn't know for sure what the second number was, right?
I don't
But
think
like,
I don't think we
I
did.
feel
I
like
think-
Kyle, you and I alluded to like it's just like that's the
Yeah.
417th
That's
Of
kind of
that
what I
year.
would
one
think,
of that year, yeah.
which is
Sure.
Oh,
too many
Oh,
for a
yes.
year.
it's a lot.
If my
That is
government
a lot of
notified me
things.
more than once a day, I'm out. Like I can't take it.
That is true. But it is just interesting to have at the beginning of a chapter that seems to be a lot about the people who seem dedicated to Dune with same hair as Violet, making it feel like she was dedicated to Dune. And then it doesn't seem like obviously Violet knows of that. So somebody would have done it without her permissions or whatever, which is what it says is not allowed to happen. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a very interesting pre-chap for Rebecca to add in there right before dropping all that info. So
Well,
know.
if you also think about it this way, if this is a government notice, it's a government decision. It's not maybe necessarily the gods saying that they don't allow it. It's just the government saying, we are not allowing our people to do that anymore. And the gods might still be chill with it, But, like, obviously they made it for some reason. They wouldn't make the notice if there wasn't an issue with it. So maybe people were dedicating their kids to a god, and then that kid grew up and they're like, I am actually not vibing with that god at all. So
That's what the kids say. But maybe that's why she was brought to the Isle, because she couldn't do it on the continent, or her parents couldn't
maybe
dedicate her on the continent because it's against the rules.
Well, and that was, I don't know if this is in the notes too, but that was part of, what's her name? What's the queen's name?
It starts with the M.
Marlise.
Marlise.
Yeah. Isn't that what Marlise ended up saying? Like, did you choose this?
No, that was the high priestess lady.
The high priestess lady.
Who,
yeah.
like,
But
cuts her arm.
she said something about completing her dedication and asks her if she like chose this path or something. And Violet was like, I chose my life. But then when you think about it, if she was asking her about like her completing her dedication or whatever, then and Violet just had no idea.
I don't know, but speaking of the priestess, from Violet's POV, she's sort of describing her, saying she must be at least 75 years old. How long would it take for such a tattoo to fade to the point that it's unrecognizable? My stomach lurches into my throat. There's no way. And then she gets cut off. The tattoo she's talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
Of course. The tattoo she's talking about was on the priestess's forehead of Dune's symbol. And I was like, oh, Theophany had a tattoo in the same spot. And I remember, I think her saying that it was not that, she couldn't really tell what it is either. So I was like, I wonder if it's the same tattoo or something similar, at least. I don't know if only Dunites or whatever you call them tattoo their forehead.
When I read this in the notes, I was like, oh my gosh. Because I had brought up the tattoo thing, like, what does it mean? What does the tattoo mean on Stephanie? And this, like, never occurred to me. I think I probably sped past it when I was reading, so it was just, like, a very passing thing. So
That's
this
how
was
she
like,
gets you, though. All those passing things.
Oh, this is a wild revelation.
Yeah, well, I hope that she gets a better description of Stephanie's tattoo next time they meet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I had a note about this too, because number one, why does Taryn cut her off here? Like, she starts wondering about something, about why their hair looks similar to hers or this tattoo or whatever, and he immediately cuts her off. But he also immediately knew that these people were, quote, an aging general and a high priestess, without anyone telling her who those people were. Like, he already knew that about them. So I'm like, what does Taryn know? I want to know what he knows. I feel like he knows a lot more about this isle for some reason. But also, do these tattoos fade because whatever turns their hair silver also keeps their skin from retaining pigment? Because haven't they said that they can't, like, dye their hair? So I wonder if, like, is she actually super duper old? Or is her tattoo just faded because their skin don't retain
the pigment. Well, it would be interesting
because their skin won't retain the pigment like their hair.
I just think it would be interesting to why get the tattoo at all if you know that that's going to be a thing, and it also doesn't seem like anyone else has the tattoo. Like, she didn't mention it on anyone else.
Well, this is
the high priestess.
Yeah. Only high priestess there, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like we're at a point in this book that I literally have no answers to anything. And I am also just clearly as lost as a first-time reader, and I know nothing.
Because, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, though, there are other things that would correlate this to Stephanie, because she has the forehead tattoo. She has silver hair. So maybe at one point she was a high priestess of Dune.
High priestess Stephanie.
High priestess of Dune. Dunette. Okay, well, Taryn does cut her off, and it's because she's about to fight. It says, a chill that races down my spine has nothing to do with the gusting wind or the disappearance of the sun behind the storm clouds overhead. And then she starts, like, talking about the people with silver hair or whatever. But it's like, why does it just seem like every single time she has ever gotten in some sort of battle, in every single book, it starts to rain. From the moment she crosses the parapet to like the time that she's at Takaris's place and she has to fight that Venin, to like there's just like there's all these like that when she meets with almost runs into Chad with the tornado. Like, there's just always some sort of big weather related thing. And then she kind of, it feels like she 100% uses her signet somehow. So, like, is she calling the storm somehow? And then the rain all happens, and not just wielding lightning. I don't know, but there's always a storm. Always. I want to, like, go back and count it.
I added to this. I was like, well, why did this happen? Like, it was her mom's signet, like she was controlling the weather almost, kind of thing. unless it was, my question was, did Violet do that or was it the queen? And then because of this is where I was amending my initial Lilith theory, like not being her biomom, that maybe Lilith was from here and this is where her and Asher met.
Oh, interesting. Like Lilith is from Dune.
Yeah.
Doontown.
Duneland.
Yeah.
Doontown.
The dunes, as the kids say.
Because it seems
Unreal.
like, and I think I even have something else to add about this later, a little bit extra. So I'll wait and add it a little bit extra to that. So just keep that in the back of your noggin.
Keeping
All
it
right.
back there.
My next note is very unserious. It just says Arik steps forward, then replies to the commander in what sounds like flawless Unbrush. And I wrote, hot.
Ark really stepping it up this chapter section. I feel like we've all been waiting
for
for
real is,
him
though.
to show up.
Yeah.
And then he literally comes out of the fog in between the dragons, and it's like this whole scene and moment. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Love
I
Ark.
got a lot of notes on Arik later as well.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
you
Khan does too.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so they've said this line a bunch of times, and I've just, every time, I love it, and I just haven't let it go. And so I just felt like saying it here, where it's Andarna and Violet, and they're trying to figure out what to do, and they always just say every possible path. And it's like their answer to each other when they're like, should we? Is this weird? Whatever. And they're just like, every possible path. And I just really like that saying. I think it's super cute, and I want it on a t-shirt. So there's that.
Okay.
Yay, we can do that one. I also think that'd be a good sticker or something. Just like,
Yeah.
it feels very nice.
Then Arik's jaw ticks.
Whoop, whoop.
So cheers, John.
John was already drinking. He was waiting for it.
My next note here is when the general said the best of three before they started fighting. And I was like totally convinced here. I was like, oh, somebody's dying. And logically, it would have been Dane in this scenario. Like, Dane's about to die. I was totally convinced. Didn't happen.
You sound
Thankfully.
disappointed. Oh, okay.
No, I'm glad it didn't happen. I guess I was just like, that definitely would have made it like the moment a little crazier for sure. And I thought even when he was down, I was like, oh no, like they're going to like finish him off or something, or I don't know.
I feel
Just a
like
close one.
Yeah, I was nervous about that.
Yeah.
I feel like the close calls that Dane has here and then Garrick has on the next one just sets up Traeger's to be that much more shocking.
Yeah, for
Because
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and
it's-
Riddick.
Because
well,
you're
yeah,
like hopeful
but,
that
like-
nobody's going to die.
yeah, well, and like it's like, oh, nothing's
Yeah.
actually happened, or oh, we're just, whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like an instant. It's
Yeah.
not drawn out. It's a super big surprise, and I think that as much as yes, if each island had some bigger lasting impact, I feel like it just set up that moment for
Yep.
Traeger. This is the part that Connor kind of talked about at the beginning of this chapter section,
yeah.
where I think it was the high priestess lady who asked, like if you've made your decision, or like, is this the life you chose? And she says, I chose my life. And then the priestess is like, then it is good that we did not complete your dedication. And Violet's like, my what? What kind of drugs do they provide in these temples here? I just thought that part was funny. But then the priestess lady says, but do you not yearn for the temple? Usually the touch creates such longing that you can't help but return. Or perhaps you now favor another god. And then she glances up at Tarn, which I think is super interesting, that you favor another god. And then she looks at Tarn. And then Violet gets distracted by Xaden or whatever. And then the priestess lady still says, I still see you among us on your potential paths. Should you decide to take it, Dune will still accept you. It is not too late to choose her. And then Violet says, I choose him. And she's like, whether or not she's talking about Taryn or Xaden, my answer is still the same. And I just highlighted all of this, and my Kindle note just says, I need answers. There's so much here, and I don't know any of it. I do actually have this interesting theory with the Isles and the gods and the dragons kind of cooking in my brain. I wrote it down, and I don't know if this is the time to mention it, but each isle is a specific color and seems to be around a certain god. And then each dragon is a certain color and seems to have the same characteristics as said god. So like Dune is Umbriel, and all of them wear blue robes. And then the blue dragons are supposedly like the war,
ruthless.
whatever. Yeah, and ruthless. Like,
Uh-huh.
and then like
Interesting.
Zinal is all wearing orange. and they're like the god of luck, and the orange
they're
dragons are
crazy.
kind of crazy and all over the place. And then Hedotus, they're all wearing green robes, and they're supposed to be wise, like the god of wisdom. And the green dragons are supposed to be the ones that are like super wise and knew about like the healing stuff. And they just had all the, and obviously those are the only ones we get. But it'd be interesting if each dragon color has something to do with a god or somehow related to that. I don't know how that connects when Xaden or when Taryn says, we pay no heed to your puny gods or whatever. I don't know. It feels very connected somehow with the colors and the islands and the characteristics.
That's way too many links for it to be a coincidence, for sure.
Yeah.
I had kind of, speaking of the color of the Isles too, everything except for the last one, she was like, oh, it's such like a pale green, all these plants and everything, except for the one that had a little bit of magic. So I, in the same line of the island's coloring, sort of wonder if the Venom have not been there already and partially drained them of their magic. Because she's like, these Isles are so pale, and then we get to the one that has like a little bit, and it's a little bit more colorful, and we already know that everything they drain turns gray.
But it would be odd for like that there is new growth there. Like they have plants that are growing, but they're all growing in like the same pale shade.
Doesn't last for forever. It takes so long before it comes back. Something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But with the colors of the dragons, it would make me think that Taryn is Malik, ? Just because he's black and that feels death related. I don't know.
She's always talking to Malik.
She is always talking to Malik. And then I don't know what the red ones would be.
That's interesting, though. So I didn't really pay as close of attention, I guess, to her looking at Taryn. I remember it saying that, so like she glances at Taryn and then her eyes slide to Xaden. Violet's like, whether she's talking about Taryn or Xaden. But she says like, or perhaps you now favor another god, before she looks at both of them. I mean, it is like lowercase g god, so that could just mean like
God of your heart. Whatever.
Right.
Maybe she
that's
can
true.
tell Xaden's Venom.
Well, yeah, like was it this book or Iron Flame where it said like, it must have been this book where it said it was almost like Dune herself had stepped in behind his eyes or something like that. Like it started specifically.
Yeah, but that would still be the
referring
same
to-
god, not another god.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
But what Kyle just said
Maybe the answer
was
is
like
two.
maybe that she knew Xaden was Venom. And so
Right.
it's like the dragons or the Venom or the other god, ? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just a lot there. And I've
Yeah.
been keeping notes, friends. I've been like colors and things and the stuff and the connections.
You're saying that Taryn, connecting Taryn to Malik, it made me think of, I think it was when she wielded for the first time and quote unquote killed Jack. And she had like such a reaction to it, didn't she? Wasn't she saying something along the lines of like, am all I made for is death? Like stuff like that. Yeah.
That was her big stress.
She
or
was
whatever.
just like so distraught over it, and she's like, is this all I'm made for, kind of thing.
Well, and the fact that like Melgren can see all the outcomes of war and seems to like know who's going to lose or who's going to die basically in those battles, as much as it could also be connected to maybe like Dune with war and stuff. But I don't know. Anyways,
Interesting. I feel like my bigger theories for this book are more about the sources of power and not, I wasn't really thinking about any of this stuff, so that is super interesting.
You're the God's Watch gal.
that's what I'm here for.
Maybe
That's
the
what friends are for.
GWG.
Well, I almost said maybe the gods were originally dragons, but then I feel like Taryn would care more about them, so never mind.
Yeah.
I could see like after years and years and years, and especially history being wiped out, that maybe it was turned into something else, like into these, unseeable gods or whatever, but really it's been the dragons the whole time or something like that. And Taryn knows that and just is like, oh, humans. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like, did they... Now I want to go back and reread it all.
Or even that each dragon line comes from a god and like, or something like that. Like maybe they're not the gods themselves, but they were created by a certain god, and that's why they're that color or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if the different breed of dragons originated from each of those isles, and the humans just, like, basically modeled their gods after the dragons. So, like, the characteristics of the god became the characteristics of the dragon and the colors and stuff. If they just, like... So then Taryn is like, we pay no heed to your puny gods because they don't exist, and they're just, like, modeled after dragons anyway.
Yeah.
I could maybe see that.
Then how do you explain Irids, huh? What god are they? What island are they?
Well, is there 7 gods or 6?
We have 6.
Okay. Because there's a god of love we haven't mentioned.
Loyal.
And I don't remember the other one.
Hedion was the other new one. But then it's Amari.
Yeah.
And the continent is named Amaralis.
Yeah. Well, because Hedion, I said, was the green dragons. And blue dragons is Dune. Orange dragon is Zinal. Black is Malik, ? And that leaves us red and brown.
And Irid.
Well, yeah.
But, yeah.
Red is for love. I don't know. Again, these are just my random thoughts. So
This says the Brown's defining characteristic is that it is best not to show trepidation, fear, or hesitation around them. But I think the only one we really know is Riddick's, and then is Chad also brown?
yeah, Chad is brown.
Yeah.
But we don't really know anything except for that Chad's brown. Chad is
The
more
runes.
attuned to
He's like
runes or whatever.
Yeah.
Lauren got mad at me recently because I don't know how she didn't know, but my second favorite color to green is brown, and she made fun of me for having brown on my short list of favorite colors.
Well, it's because I was wearing a green shirt and brown boots, and he was like, "Oh, you're wearing my favorite colors." And I was like, "I look like a tree." Like, I got green on top and brown on the bottom. Your favorite color is tree? Like, that's what you like? But okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Boom, roasted.
I mean, I said I looked like a tree, so it's
What did
at
I
me
say
too,
to that,
but-
Lauren? Finish the story.
I don't remember. I don't remember. What'd you say?
I said a tree I'd like to climb. Brown is a pretty color.
That's amazing. Oh.
Anyways,
All right. Chapter 32, Zayden's jaw flexes.
Oh.
Cheers.
just took a drink.
I'm almost out already.
She's chugging over there.
Yep. Okay, my next note includes a lot of other little notes, but this is mostly about, well, I'll just read my overarching note. The book says things like, light flashes in the sky above us, and my note was, in all caps, "Ho, is you channeling?"
All caps.
So basically all of these things are to say that I am still convinced 1000%
100%.
that Violet was absolutely channeling from Andarna on the Isles, because also in this section, yes, I know Lauren's got some notes here too, but some of the ones that I pulled in were Violet in her POV, golden anger courses down the bond and into my veins, heating my skin. Adrenaline kicks in, coursing through me like power. Rage devours me from the scalp down, storming through my veins in a surge of heat that sizzles the rain on my skin. There's like so many of these examples in this section.
Well, and that's like how many times she does use her power, and then it's like the rain is sizzling off of me. Because first of all, it's
Yeah.
always raining when she's fighting, so that description is used all the time. But the fact that it's golden anger, it's like very clearly that it's from Andarna. That would be. But it says that like earlier she had mentioned that she can't shield from Andarna and Terran right now, and so she was asking Andarna to try to control her emotions because it would like take over her and stuff. And then Andarna, we know, is watching because she like snuck in and was hiding invisible on the little Dune statue or whatever. After the fight, or after it all happened, Violet looks over and it says, rain streams down my face when I look upward, finding Andarna between Sigale and Terran on the wall, her scales rippling with alarming speed in various shades of black. And Violet says, are you all right? And Andarna just says, I am angry. So I feel like she, whether or not Violet intended to do any of this, or she just like got like a heat of like anger and emotion from Andarna, and it almost like Andarna just like flooded all of that into Violet, because Violet like clearly did not even think she wielded and didn't intend to do any of it. So it just kind of gives that Andarna took over for a second, which is wild if that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I'm with you. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'm
right.
following.
So after the lightning, Zayden comes up and is like, the lightning, was that you? And he says, lifting my chin between my thumb and forefinger and searching my eyes. And she says, no. I shake my head. And he's like, I mean, and he's like, the heat, the anger, the snap. Weird. Just coincidence. There isn't magic here or whatever. And so it's like, yeah, the heat, the anger, the snap, like all of it. She has no idea where it came from. But I just thought it was sad that Zayden was like checking her eyes to make sure she didn't like turn venom or something. Because that's the depressing world that Zayden's living in.
That is sad. I just thought it was cute that he like did the chin grab.
Yeah, but it was
about him
searching her
checking
eyes
her
to see if
eyes.
they're red. He thought she channeled.
I missed that. Oh, that is sad.
To add a little bit of this here, like Mira also asks her later if she wielded when she hears what happened. And at first I thought maybe she was asking, I was kind of hoping that she had like slipped Violet a rune or something without her knowing. And she just like wanted to like see if it worked or something. I thought that would have been an interesting little side thing.
Wasn't Mira the one that gave her the one that was like supposedly supposed to help block her from the sun?
Yeah, but she's saying like a different one, like Snooker.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not convinced that that is a sun blocking rune.
Oh, me either.
That's why I was saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also convinced on that. I don't think I left it in my notes, but she mentions in this chapter section how it's the same rune that's on one of her daggers that Xaden gave her, like, and so it's like that rune, whatever it has been with her a long time, and we know that her nose was pink when they first got to the island, so obviously it wasn't blocking her from the sun before she got the sun blocking rune or whatever, so it's clearly something else.
Yep.
And I have theories on what that is, but I'm gonna save it.
Oh.
It's a sun blocking rune so that she can only have daughters. Mira only wants nieces.
I thought you were going to say to keep Xaden away from her.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Oh my gosh. So when Violet starts talking to Queen Marlies, she's like, you wielded whatever. And Violet's like, you have no magic here for me to wield. And Queen Marlies says, and yet you've destroyed something that stood 700 years before your arrival. I think this is the first time we've ever heard of something older than 600 years. Just because like that's
other than Andarna's egg.
True. Other than Andarna's
And the
egg.
continent.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Yes.
Move on from this note.
It's literally just Andarna's egg and this.
I mean, like, I know stuff does exist. It's just not, like,
Yeah.
history of anything that we really know because they've changed it all or it doesn't seem important anymore. But, I don't know. It maybe goes to the theory, I never thought this before this episode, of, like, the Isles had been stripped of magic from Venin or something and it's, like, slowly coming back or something like that if it's been around super, super long. Part of me just thought the Isles were when the continent started going off and some of the people went that way instead. But I guess it's been around for forever. So
Yeah. The only real note that I have at the end of this chapter is just a question because Marlies says that she wants dragons. And obviously they're not going to do that. But, like, why are the people on these isles so obsessed with obtaining dragons if they're terrified of them and have, quote unquote, no magic for them to wield? Literally, they built the entire isle to defend against dragons. Like, why are they asking for dragons?
Yep, totally agree.
Kyle, you want to bring up your note?
While she was writing her notes, we were both in the document at the same time. And I just saw her like, why are the people so obsessed with obtaining dragons if they're terrified of them? And I wrote under it, I used to be terrified of women, so I get it. But I deleted it, but her saying it reminded me of it.
Nice.
I mean, I think it's the same thing as like the people who cross the parapet thinking they're going to get one. And then as soon as the dragons show up, they run away and scream and are crying and whatever. Like, there's just that mindset that they think that they're worthy and can do all the things. But like, it's rightful to also be afraid of them and potentially protect yourself. I don't know.
I think they're rightfully defensive about dragons because of their destruction. Like, obviously, they can just like wreak havoc if they want to. But yes, I'm starting to think that the dragons themselves are the source of power. So if the Isles had dragons, then they would literally just develop a hatching ground in due time, and voila, source of magic.
Ah, yeah.
The only thing wrong with that, though, is like we kind of already know that dragons decide when to hatch. So like they could have eggs, but who's to say if the dragons are like, I'm gonna hatch here, or if they're gonna wait to whoever knows how many centuries. Yeah.
Yep.
But good luck, I guess.
Okay, chapter 33. This is when they all like get back together. They're on the beach, and Violet says, "Wait, is it just me, or did Kat actually grin at him?" Talking about Traeger, and then Darna goes, "Not just you." And then Violet notes that Traeger moves to stand in front of Xaden and me, and yep, Kat totally tracks his movement. And then a little bit later, she says, talking about Traeger, that he lowers his head to look at her arm, and she has to bite back a smile because she spots a mouth-shaped bruise on the side of his neck. So they weren't just hunting. They were in the woods together. So that was a moment. So happy for them. Live your best life. And
That's really funny. I did not catch that Andarna was the one that was part of this like hot goss.
It's not just you. And Darna's here for it. And then Xaden's arm is like cut super bad and it's not healing. It's actually getting infected and all the things. So they're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to save Xaden Ryerson? So they're like, I know what to do. We should get the Lauren salve. And I was like, yes, guys. I'm here for you. Rub me all over Xaden. I will heal him.
It'll fix everything.
It'll fix everything. And it works. His arm is so much better by the end of this chapter section. So you are welcome, Xaden, and your Lauren
Amazing.
self. Not spelled the same, but I'm taking it as a win. And then this is the part where Talia walks up to them on the beach and she's like, Xaden, and he's like, is it really you? And Xaden's like, Mom. And it's like whole moment. And I don't know what episode it was, however many episodes ago, that Kyle mentioned, yeah, maybe we'll find Xaden's mom. She's probably sipping Mai Tais on a beach somewhere. And
Yep, it was.
here she is on a
Here
beach.
she is.
Oh, Kyle. He even
It was
came.
4 episodes ago. It was before we even started this book.
Wow.
Oh,
Good
wow.
job, Kyle. But when Kyle read this part, and then that was like when he had a stopping spot in his own personal reading schedule throughout the week to get through it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I asked him where he was, and he's like, "Oh, they just ran into Xaden's mom." And I just went, "I'm so mad at you about that." And he's like, "What? What did I do?" I was like, "Because she's sipping Mai Tais." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He did not remember because he makes these crazy, wildly accurate predictions, but they really are honestly just throwaway lines and just stupid jokes that he makes. Like, I don't know, Sawyer break a leg or whatever. Like, he doesn't actually, they're not in his thoughts and theories. These are not thought out things. He's just weirdly accurate in his stupid jokes. And then he doesn't remember that he made them later because they were just stupid jokes. So there's a lot of
Even
people
today, she was like, you didn't put that you called it in our notes. And I was like, I didn't, though. I just made a joke.
But you still did, kind of. I claim it.
It was technically in Thoughts and Theories, but that was a month ago.
Oh, okay.
But it was at the end of Iron Flame, and we were like, here are some popular theories or things that people are wondering. And we were like, where do you think Xaden's mom is?
Oh,
And you were
okay.
like, probably sipping Mai Tais on a beach somewhere.
And she was.
It's funny because, I say things and I don't remember them. So it's funny to hear what I said. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something I would say.
But there's a lot of people who think he's read ahead. There's no way he would know all of these things, and I'm here to tell you, he just says random crap, and he says a lot of it probably that's not accurate, and then he just hits on the mark every once in a while. So,
I hope.
anyways,
Yeah, Lauren has to get on to me for reading. She got on to me for stopping there. I was like, yeah, they just met his mom. And she's like, and you're stopping? And I was like, it's time
I
to stop
freaked
tonight.
out Xaden's mom.
All right, chapter 34. This is my other Harry Potter reference for the evening. Xaden keeps saying things to Violet like, you already hold my soul. But the whole Venom dilemma is that he has lost his soul already, or he is losing his soul piece by piece. But this is a new thing that he keeps saying to Violet, that she holds his soul, or she has it, or it belongs to her. So, does he mean literally? Is he Horcruxing her somehow? When Venom trade their souls for power, where do their souls go? If the gods exist, do their souls get, not commended to Malik, I would assume, if this is not the proper way to commend one's soul, if you're just trading it for power, if this is some weird trade-off. So I'm wondering if there's more to that specific language of he is losing his soul and you can't get it back, or where does it go, and why does he keep telling Violet that it's hers? Because that's kind of freaking me out a little bit.
I like the idea of him Horcruxing her to a certain extent. I think it's only because it's funny.
It is kind of weird because, how do you even verify that they've lost their soul? How do they know for a fact that that's the payment?
Well, because they lose their emotions and stuff, I think is what it is. And they become this emotionless kind of shell of a person or whatever. And that's why I guess I've thought, almost like they've lost their humanity or whatever. That's how I've always taken it.
That's an interesting word to use because some people would argue that your humanity is not part of your soul. That is literally the two separate parts of you, is the human part and the soul part. So
But
I
he's
don't
not
know,
human anymore. He's Venom.
That's true. Which is Venom, just another type of human? Who knows? Whatever. Anyway, the point is, they lose their emotions and everything, but I don't know. Emotions are also a spectrum. Surely there's people who aren't Venom who are just less emotional than others. Would they be like, oh my gosh, you're soulless? I don't know.
Maybe that's why there's no people with red hair, because they don't have souls.
Whoa.
Got him.
They're like, you're Venom, get off the continent.
They don't kill them. They allow them to leave.
That's kind, at least.
I don't know. Oh, but during this conversation, it says the bruise on his jaw ripples when he clenches his teeth. So this is a very in-depth jaw clench for Xaden. So
Sneaky one.
A little tricky.
Okay.
Sip.
it was hard to. It was a little tricky. Got it. And then I'm just going to keep bringing this up because this is the only episode I get to do any of this. But Violet catches Kat and Trigger walking down the beach hand in hand. And that is so precious for them.
Whoa.
I just love it. And they even have the conversation that they're just happy for them and like for that Kat's moved on and all the things.
Yeah.
So excited for them. Excited for that. And then, this is literally just the part I was talking about just now with Xaden talking about how he's like losing his emotions and his feelings. And it's like this huge long paragraph that I almost put in here, but really like the last line is he says, I get it now. It's not just the power that's addicting. It's the freedom to not feel this. And he's talking about like his like horrible feelings and like regret and whatever and all this stuff. And then I think worse than that thought coming from Xaden is the fact that Violet in her own POV thinks, does he know that I've brought a new conduit, that there's a fully charged piece of alloy in my pack? And she's like worried that she's brought something that he can channel from and is like triggering to him. And she's, I don't know, dealing with an addict, but she brought the things he wants. And it's just, it's just all around bad situation.
Yeah.
On a more unserious note, this is when they're still kind of deciding on whether Xaden's going to attend dinner, and he's like worried about her injury to her rib, and he's like, should you go? And Violet kind of jokes about it. She's like, it's not too bad as long as I don't twist or breathe too deeply or lift Andarna. And it says the joke falls flat. And I put in my notes, oh, nice one. So I put a gif in the notes of Jim Carrey's Ace Ventura doing the
Yeah, it's like a sarcastic
Nice one.
thumbs up that Xaden gave earlier.
basically,
He just
yeah.
does that back to her.
nice joke.
That is good. If you're someone who can't start a book without setting the mood, same. That's why we're obsessed with mood reader candles.
They're made for readers, like designed to match the exact vibe of whatever emotional damage your current read is about to cause.
Fantasy? There's a candle for that. Enemies to lovers? Yep. Existential spiral after a plot twist? They've got you.
They're hand-poured, soy-based, and the scents don't punch you in the face, subtle enough to live in, strong enough to notice.
We burn them constantly while we're reading, recording, while I'm crying over fictional characters, all of the above.
So, if you want your reading time to feel like a full-on sensory experience, check them out at moodreadercandles.com using code FRIENDS10 for 10% off.
Light one up, open your book, and emotionally prepare yourself.
All right, we're moving into chapter 35. This is Violet hoping it's not some animal head on their dinner plate as they're about to like reveal. And
PTSD.
yeah, but it's not. It's roasted chicken, potatoes, some kind of stuffing mixed with what appears to be cauliflower. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, that is my jam.
Invite me to the party.
Bring me to the party. You having a party? And then it goes on, and this is like some of my favorite moments from Arik here in these moments. It says, Kat sets her silverware on her plate, but Arik digs into his chicken, completely unfazed. And I just wrote, my man. Like, get into it. Get into the important thing. And then as one of the triumvirate is talking, she says, so many young royals here, so many potential alliances. Why are you not contracted to one another? It seems foolish not to forge futures and provide heirs who would unite your kingdoms. And on this comment, I was like, I mean, it's kind of valid, though, especially with everybody just like fighting each other like on the continent. Like, obviously, you know, Kat and Xaden had that going on before Violet came in. So that probably would have been helpful. But, you know, what's done is done. So, and we're moving on. And then I just have the note where it says, Arik continues eating, and I was like, my man, yeah, let's go. He's doing the Lord's work over there.
In this same dinner scene, they're sort of talking about the making heirs and getting married off to each other. And this is the whole draw up the papers scene that was in John's recap, where Xaden's like, yeah, get the papers ready. Sort of tricking them, thinking like, oh, he means to get the papers ready for him to marry someone here, but he's referring to Violet. Confirming what we were talking about like last episode. that they will be married, probably in this book. Since this is the second reference to it in under 10 chapters, I feel like it's going like, oh, it's coming. They're gonna do it.
She's only a second year in college. She'll be okay. She's just here for her MRS. Got a
And
dragon,
I got what I
she's
came
out.
for.
I just like in this conversation and stuff, just like Garrick on the side, just being completely Garrick, whereas like you could hyphenate, Garrick suggests, or combine Ryergale, Sorensen, Garrick. He's just this like, I don't know. I feel like for the first 2 books, we don't get a ton from him except for that one Xaden POV chapter. And a lot of the comedic relief is always Riddick. So I love that Garrick always gets, when he talks, it's always something very funny like that. Love him.
I was trying to see if I could find my like first read notes from this part because my Kindle app wasn't working when I did the outline, but I was like pretty sure that I put at this part too, like he's totally gonna propose or something.
Yeah, it's a little too much
so
at this
convinced.
point.
Something I just need more information about, and I hope that it comes up at some point in the future in this series. Talia even brings up here in passing how Isaac Mari was executed in secret, and they never explain why. Like in book 1, Violet has that conversation with Liam while they're like going to the archive. They're on like archives duty. And she just was like, wait, your dad wasn't on the death roll. And like finds out that he was executed in secret. But like Talia even knows about it and brings it up here. And there's still no explanation. And I'm just really curious about that. I feel like there's a lot of Mari stuff kind of going on with like their family crest being on the crates. And like, I don't know. I just want more of that.
Yeah. And for that, I think that Sloane is going to end up being some major character.
Yes,
The answer of something. Right now, she's
that would be cool.
just a first year, whatever. And hopefully she'll like play a bigger role later if it is like some big Mari family secret of some sort. For me, this passage was more, how does Talia know that? When even Violet, who reads everything that's been through the scribe, like that's in the archives, doesn't know that. Because like not that secret information can't get passed, but she's on a whole nother island. She's getting,
she was gone.
Like who's passing that information and has the real facts of whatever that she would know that. So,
which also means like it's important enough that she knows that somehow, right?
And was he the only one that died in secret?
He's the only one that's been specifically mentioned.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, we do know that Sloane will have a bigger part because, like, she literally just started falling for Dane. So obviously, something's gonna happen there before we.
Yeah.
Dane will have a bigger part. Ayo!
Oh, wow. 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 Lauren coming in with the D joke.
Wow. Big
But
D.
yeah, I mean, like, something's gonna happen.
Big D. Yes. We got another Big D in this book. Nice. I like it. Yes, Big D. Oh my gosh.
That's the only thing that made me think like, oh, Dane is at least currently safe, and so would Sloane be, because like, I mean, there's gonna be some moment where they get further into a relationship before something happens, because apparently no relationship in this book is safe except for Violet and Xaden's, because in every other one someone dies.
I mean, Xaden is a Venin. I feel like that's not
but
a
is he
long
alive?
term.
Barely.
Yeah.
Wait,
barely.
okay, wait, but now I'm also okay. That kind of makes me glad that like Imogen and Garrick aren't together yet, because I want them to be together, but I
That's
don't
a
want them
good
to
point.
die.
That's such a good.
Now
point.
I'm nervous.
It's a great.
Well, Garrick came pretty close. I bet. No, never mind.
No, I know. I was gonna say I feel like it would be a much higher emotional impact if she makes it this big slow burn through the whole series, and then they finally get together, and then one of them dies. I'm gonna be so mad if that happens.
Or like they don't get together, and one's like on their deathbed and is like, "I've always loved you," and they like never have their moment.
Maybe it'll be like Garrick and her fall in love, and they're so happy together, and then Imogen's like hurt, dying, and he's like, "No, I can't live without you," and she'll be like, "No, don't worry about it, forget about me," and make him forget all about her so he can move on.
Oh no, that's worse.
That's so depressing, Kyle. Look at John.
Like when Hermione obliviated her own parents.
Yes,
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It's totally like that. Imogen is Hermione.
Not
But
me.
Everyone else will feel sad for Garrick, but he'll be like, "What's everyone sad about?"
Oh my.
John is still speechless. Jaw is still dropped.
I'm kind of here for it though. Like that would be crazy.
It would be crazy.
It's depressing.
My heart hurts.
Wow.
This hasn't even happened.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, My next note here is about Mira's little monologue here. She goes through like each member of their party who's there and like the honorable thing that they've done as she goes through. And I was just like, I'm obviously not going to read it super long, but I just loved this. I was like, hell yeah, Mira. Like she's sticking up for every single person in there when I feel like most of them are probably a little bit afraid of her. She's just like 100%. She knows like what each of them have like sacrificed and done for like other people in the group. So I thought that was pretty sweet.
Well, it's like a big moment, I feel like, because she is so far removed from all of them because they've all been at college together, and she's been, and so she is coming in as this like, she has medals from battles she's won and all this stuff, and so she does feel very removed from them, and so it's more that she shows respect to all the other people on the squad, like that. It's I don't know, and her bridging that gap. It's just a good moment for her. I love Mira so freaking much. Love her.
That, and she's like doing all of this while clearly frustrated about not knowing what her part is in this, because like Lauren said, she was doing really well before all of this went down on her own, and now she's like obviously not happy about her dad only leaving books for her sister, and she's like, oh yeah, of course they're not for me, and like sort of making snide remarks that sort of changed after she visited her grandma. Like she hasn't really been like that too much in this section, but so maybe something happened there.
Well, yeah, because it was like all Brennan, and then Brennan, died or whatever. And so then it turned into Mira, and with Mom and stuff, and her winning all the awards and doing all the stuff. But now it's like Violet is main character energy, and Mira's had that hard time taking that back seat kind of a thing. So, it's just a good moment for her. She's the best.
Yeah. Quick note here. Violet says to the Triumvirate, sort of in passing almost, but she says, I find it perplexing, too, that you don't seem to have a port. And Ferris says, it is unwise to venture over water when we know next to nothing about what lurks within its depths. And then he's cut off. And I am still hung up on a sea adventure book. I'm going to be sad if we don't get one at this point.
In the Emerald Sea? Yes. I mean, it would make sense that there's like sea dragons of some sort. That feels like a thing.
It is weird though. Like, and I love Violet's comment where she's like, "Are they aquaphobic?" I'm like, "You live on an island, dude. Like, what do you mean?" Right? Like, I'm sure at least the shallows are safe to fish in. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Well, and obviously they have people visit that because, like, how do they get information? That's not
right.
Pigeon.
Erisbird.
Exactly.
All right. My next note here is my final note of Arik in this section. Finally putting his silverware down after cleaning his plate. And it was just a big, my man! He made it through. He cleaned it up, baby. Got it done.
Clean paint clip.
Priorities. And then my next note is when it's like Ferris's turn, they got like the 2 jade stones, and it's kind of, Ferris's turn to have his turn at him, and he says, tell me, if you truly seek knowledge, why do you not worship Hedion? And this, for some reason, this kind of set me off a bit. I don't know why. Even if it's like partially his measure, I find it terribly annoying and dumb. Like, these people live on an island without magic. Like, why would the people of the continent worship Hedion only when their ancestors and most people, I think it has said, worship the queen of the gods, which is Amari, and that's what they call them, kind of thing. Also, to our previous conversation about like only worshiping one, like, I don't know, it just kind of set me off that he might be using this to measure wisdom in some way based on their answer.
He dumb.
He is.
That's true.
But he enjoyed that tea.
He sure did.
Sip, sip.
I agree. He is a dummy.
So this is my note crushing on Arik now when he says things like, I prefer keeping my mouth shut until I understand the rules of whatever game is aiming for my throat. Helps me judge the character and acumen of my opponent. I love him. And then he also said, with the exception of her taste in men, I've trusted Violet's wisdom since childhood.
It makes me nervous that he says, with her exception of taste in men. Because Taryn has now expressed anti-Xaden-ness. And is this Arik doing that? Or is he referencing Halden here?
Well, we know Arik's not like a huge fan of Xaden generally.
Yeah, that's true.
But also probably Halden. Yeah. He knows his brother's an idiot.
It's one thing when us as like the reader who know the information about Xaden is like a little skeptical of the relationship, but it's other, I mean, and obviously Taryn, I guess, knows that he's Venom, but like it's other outside people in the book that maybe don't know those things that give bigger red flags to me than even the red flags I've read. It just makes me, I don't know.
Well, yeah, but that was even
So
before
nervous.
Xaden turned, right? That Arik like didn't really like him
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
And
in the like archives heist.
Jane is also there, who is also a previous interest of hers. So he's
Oh.
saying this in front of 3 parties involved with
Fair.
this bad taste, which I think is funny.
Okay, well, chapter 36, chapter 35 ends with Garrick eating the chocolate cake, which then we jump into 36 where Garrick is like on the floor. I was just so worried for Garrick in this whole time because he is a killable character. I hate saying that, but like there are certain characters that is very like open for anything and others that have like some plot armor for certain things, and I feel like Garrick is just kind of an open-ended, and it could have been that moment for him. But my note here was this would have been Jon if we were all at dinner. Someone put a chocolate cake in front of him and he would have eaten it, which it makes it even funnier because he just went on all this Arik eating the food thing in the last chapter. But that was my note here. That would be Jon if we were at dinner. He would be dead on the floor from
Very
chocolate
valid.
cake.
Very valid. I would not wait for anyone. If it was a dessert, a similar dessert, you know what I mean?
I'd be next. I'd be right up next. And if I just ate a cake and someone said that was poison, I'm getting a second slice if I'm dying. Like, I'm like, well, pass on more over, man. Like, what do we stop?
out on a high note.
Let's go.
Well, and thinking of from Garrick's perspective, he probably has also been just as long as Xaden without chocolate cake, you know, or whatever.
Awful.
Like, so he was probably just as excited initially. I don't know. Anyways.
Oh my gosh. I had some first read notes here where I was just, it was just me in denial. Like, nope, absolutely not. This is not happening. He's going to be fine.
Well, and then this whole moment with Violet just being, it just, her brain is so smart and she does so many cool things where it's like, this is the part where I tell you, I've already killed you. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? You know, all the things. And then she like goes on to explain all the stuff. And it's so freaking cool. And it just makes me love her so much. It also makes me equally and more annoyed that she doesn't ask so many questions and does things later. But in this moment, it was a really cool moment for her. Peak Violet, Soren Gale,
Yes.
Poison,
So good.
Master, all the things, just epic and amazing. Big.
And going into chapter 37, where she and Riddick are looking for the antidote or finding out what the poison even was so they can make an antidote. Riddick almost dies again by getting cut. It's just his jacket, but I was like, this dude has dodged death 3 times now, I believe. Major deaths anyway, aside from, you know, presentation and stuff like that. So either he is Zenal or is related to him or highly favored, or Yarros is saving up a doozy for him because this guy is,
No.
yeah.
I was so nervous for Riddick, like this whole book, and this was my first read note here, all caps. OMFG, Rebecca, this was so incredibly rude and so incredibly Riddick. Realizing that he was actually fine and then just punching him in the face.
Yeah, I have this where he yells, I have 4 uniforms, but only 1 effing flight jacket, and I punch, hey, punch, sewing. I was like, freaking Riddick. Oh, I love him so much.
So Riddick.
But I actually have a big theory with Riddick, but I'm going to save it for our theories episode once we finish the book.
But then a muscle in Xaden's jaw ticks, so cheers
drinky.
again.
Well, one of the notes I put, I guess, like after they gave him the antidote, I think, was all this almost dying is surely leading up to an actual death on these isles. And we're just past midway in the book, so the timing is right. So, yep.
Yep.
So,
yep, called that one.
This was my note here was just really echoing what Lauren just said. My first read note said, "Damn, Violet." I just love her whole little like I wrote badass meister.
Poison
Her
Meister.
badass poison master scribe brain self here.
Yep.
It's just so good. She's like Violet specifically in this book is like one of my favorite female main characters, other than not asking questions.
Yeah. But like just seeing her like go through the process and like collecting all the information and doing all the stuff and like putting it all together really quick. It was good.
Yeah. Even when she can't use her power, because it's like I love seeing her power grow, but then it's cool that even when she's in these aisles and there's no power to wield or like develop, supposedly, that she's still like being super awesome without relying on that completely.
For sure.
My next note here is shortly after here, Garrett comes to. It says 3 minutes later, Garrett groans and opens his eyes. This is my least favorite aisle. I was like, bro, same. Like, what is this place? Who are these crazy people? Like, get us out of here, man.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Well, and Violet made jokes that the other people were maybe high, but these people literally have purple eyes for something they're eating. So it's like, all right. But speaking of eyes, whenever Violet first gets to the island, Ferris is like, oh, what interesting eyes you have, or says something about her eyes. And then here he recognizes her and says, the eyes. I should have recognized your eyes. You're Asher Daxton's girl. And so is this like, does Asher have some sort of specific eyes or whatever? Like the only eyes I feel like we ever talk about are Xaden's Onyx golden flecked eyes or whatever. So like, is there something special about Violet's eyes?
Amber.
And then is this like, what did Asher do to make him so memorable that someone would remember his eyes? Like that feels weirdly specific. And then also, did we already know? I know we've talked about like, but is this like confirm that Asher Daxton is Asher Sorengale? I feel like we had this like, it seems like there's no other person named Asher, but this guy says like, you're Asher Daxton's girl.
Yeah.
So this would be
Yeah,
like
I mean,
confirm.
I specifically.
Yeah, it was mostly confirmed with his research because we were getting like, he left, specific texts for her, and some of them were Asher Daxton and some of them were Asher Sorengale as like the author. But yeah, I think this is the first time somebody says it.
I think Connor asked John and I, she was like, do you think it's the same person? And I think our reaction was like, no, maybe. I don't know. It was the end of the episode. We were just like, yeah, maybe. It could be. Who knows?
Sure. Meanwhile, I was like screaming the first time Asher came up. I was like, confirmed.
Yeah,
I
I
really
did
thought it was
not.
just two people named Asher.
Yeah.
had no-
I didn't connect it at all. Even the first time it came up in the pre-chap blurb, the first time it said Asher Sorengale, I was not with it, thinking that. And then, like, it took me a minute. And anyway, so same with
Yeah,
this.
you thought I
Maybe
was
I'm just
spoiling
like,
stuff for you.
I mean, technically you did. I just had to read 3 paragraphs, but like technically you gave me a 3-paragraph spoiler. No, but for real, this was the Daxton Sorengale drama back and forth. And then who's this other Daxton person? That's where I'm confused. Is this other?
The Colonel Daxton
Yeah.
who wrote the Scribe Quadrant guide?
Yeah. I'm not.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I don't know who that is. I don't know.
Well, they were a colonel, so they would have to be higher ranking than Asher, which is the only thing that makes me believe that it was like
Not Asher.
someone, an ascendant. Of
We
him,
only
yeah.
know that he's been up to a lieutenant colonel. So
Yeah.
he was captain in a lot of his research, but a lot of his
He died
later
as a
notes.
lieutenant colonel.
Do we know that for sure, though?
I think so.
I mean, but even in this episode, in Connor's pronunciation guide, it was like Colonel Asher Daxton, Major Asher Daxton, like 2 different things where he had 2 different like titles attached or whatever.
Well, this is toward the end of the dinner, and she's still trying to get Ferris to comply and all this stuff. And then she says, ask why there are only 6 dragons outside. And she kind of waits a little bit. She says, I'll just give you the answer. It's because the 7th currently sits next to the window at your parents' house, where your boys sleep, where she'll stay until she knows we're out of range of any weapons you may be hiding. And like, with all the craziness of the dinner, I had completely forgotten that she asked Andarna to even go follow them. And when she read this, I was just like, holy effing shirt. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this was so crazy.
And Andarna actually listened about where she should go for
I
once.
know.
So,
she did.
shout out Andarna.
And I think it seemed like too, when she told her to like go follow them, it seemed like Andarna like kind of knew
Yeah.
like why
Yeah.
she
She's
was
like, are
telling
we
her
scheming or whatever she said?
that. Yeah.
I do enjoy scheming.
Yeah.
Real quick, I did find the answer to your actual question from your last note, though, about Violet's eye color, because it is in Fourth Wing. It says her eyes are, quote, just as indecisive as her hair, a light hazel of varying blues and ambers that never seems to favor either actual color. But I think Xaden calls them hazel, like in the POV, because I thought they were hazel, but I forgot that it was like this little.
Well, apparently Asher has
Indecisive.
the same eyes. And it's not
Had.
obvious to connect them. Had. Depends on who you're talking to, because there's a lot of theories out there. Anyway.
All right, chapter 38 here, my first note. This is when they first land at Zelna, and So like Taryn lands and Violet's noticing that everybody seems like super happy all of a sudden, and they realize that everybody can mind chat again, and Taryn says we all can, and this just made me so happy for everyone because everybody was just like talking to their dragons. Obviously Taryn was like super relieved that everybody could communicate. I'm sure he was happy that he and Sigale could communicate as well, so that was just, I don't know, it's just kind of a sweet moment. And speaking of mind talk, like Xaden like saunters up to her and he's like, hi there, and their mind speak, and he has, quote unquote, it reads, shucked his flight jacket and pushed up the sleeves of his uniform to his elbows. And I wrote, hello, forearms. I knew you guys would love that. And then, so the people of the Isle were expecting them, of course, but it was like, on this one, it was like a huge spectacle. And of course, like Xaden and Vi kind of share a look, and they're both like Cortland. And I don't know. This is probably not going to be like a huge thing, and it probably is Cortland. But like, I feel like they're assuming it's him so much that it's not him who's telling them, or who's telling everybody that they're coming. But then again, I also have the thought of like, well, if Deverelli is like used to being the broker for all of the Isles, then that would make sense that they have like quick communication from Deverelli with everybody. But I don't know. I'm just kind of suspicious about it, that it's not actually been Cortland.
The only thing I could think of to say Cortland specifically, if it wasn't Cortland actually saying something, would be because it was such a drama and so many people died, and so everybody would be talking about it, you know, and then that would get spread out, kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, true.
You know what I mean? More than
Maybe just
specifically
from
Cortland himself. Yeah.
Like servants or guards or whatever.
Yep.
That's true.
And it was just like the talk around town, and then that got spread.
Yeah.
Unless it was obviously Cortland himself calling them up and being like, hey, these people are coming to your Isle still.
Yeah.
On their
But
cell
again,
phones.
yeah, that's like I was gonna say again. How one of them doesn't have a port, so carrier pigeon was.
Send an owl.
Maybe since the Irids were hiding, they were just watching the whole time, and when they would leave, they would tell
Take
the
some
other people
mail.
what happened on the other islands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're just mail carriers.
yeah. That's all they are.
Nothing more. Carrying their baskets full of mail.
Well, then a muscle in Xaden's jaw pops. Cheers.
This is just like a passing comment that I don't know. I just appreciated that about whether or not it's the world that Rebecca has decided to write, and for whatever reason she's decided to include this, but they start having this conversation with the whole crowd, and it said the closest man translates for the crowd, and the voice booming through one of the cones, and then the taller one to his right signs, and then it moves on from there. And it was just like, oh, someone is sitting there signing to the whole audience, and I don't know, I'm here for that. I love that inclusion. I think it's a cool thing for her to like include literally everywhere. So
And as they go into this little contest or challenge, I guess, Calixta, the games warden, I don't know the actual word, forget it, reaches into the canvas bag she has, pulls out a stack of cards as thick as the width of my forearm. They're the size of my face and have a bright orange pattern on their backs. Each card represents a gift, blah, 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 blah. You will pull the cards that all inspires you to choose and receive your gift. And being a D&D player, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the deck of many things. I have that in my office. It even has
Can
like
you please
orange
draw
backs and
cards?
everything.
Oh my
Whoa.
gosh. Can you
I-
draw cards for us right now?
I can if you want.
Yes, let's
I guess there's 22 cards, so I could give it a quick shuffle, and if you want to just tell me a number, I'll draw it, and I'll give you what I guess would be the D&D
So
ruling
intense.
about what would happen. I will say
I'm nervous.
these do a lot more than just give kittens or kill you. These can be pretty intense for in the game. How they translate to reality, I don't know.
I'm here for it.
Who'd like to go first?
I would.
Okay, 1 to 22.
6.
That's such a quick answer.
I knew it.
Oh man, okay.
Oh.
I feel like our fortunes being told.
So
Tarot cards or something.
What's your sign, John?
this
he's
is
so
the card
nervous.
you get. It's the Sun.
Ooh, is that good
Were
or
you
bad?
to pull this from the deck in D&D, a magic item appears on your person, and you gain temporary hit points daily until
Ooh,
you die.
nice.
Well, crap. Magic item's good.
Well, call me Traeger.
No, I think that's good.
Oh no, it's just
Wait.
you have daily hit
Yeah.
points until you die. Like obviously after you die, you don't get.
And you
health,
get like
but-
additional hit points.
Yeah, it's like bonus hit points every day.
Oh, I see.
Bonus health.
I thought it was causing damage to me
Oh,
until
no. You get 10
Succumb to
extra.
Call me Trigger.
Well, sweet. All right, that's not
Nice.
bad.
Give it another.
Okay.
That's not bad.
okay.
That's not bad.
Next up.
5.
Wow, low numbers.
That's my favorite number. I'm sticking with it.
I am taking cards out, so you only had 1 to 21 to choose from.
Fair.
Oh, okay. So
I don't like
we
that.
have
That doesn't
the
sound good.
throne.
Oh,
Wait.
is Zayden there?
You
Okay. Yikes. Oh my God. Lauren. Good Lord.
This says that you would gain proficiency and expertise in your choice of history, insight,
would.
intimidation, or persuasion, and in addition, you gain rightful ownership of a small keep somewhere in the world. However, the keep is currently home to one or more monsters, which must be cleared out before you claim it properly.
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
But still, that's a nice. So far, so good, honestly.
Oh
Sweet.
no! I'm
Right.
nervous
Got
for
yourself a
myself.
summer home.
So,
Hello.
I'm here for the
Connor,
throne.
if you'd like to do a
Throne?
little a 1 to 20 here.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 9. I'm nervous.
Ooh, oopsie.
Okay, technically,
Uh-oh.
Go ahead.
I was just say because you've pulled 5 and 6, so technically,
Yes.
But I guess you're reshuffling.
I'm reshuffling each
Technically,
time.
you've pulled out
Also,
11, but
interesting like difference how this would work in D&D versus obviously the book is if you find the deck of many things in D&D, you have to claim how many cards you're pulling. And you cannot stop until you reach the number you pulled, no matter what good or
Or
bad
until you
things
died.
happen. No, even if you die, you still get the cards,
oh dang,
depending on what they do. So this is the first, probably bad one. You got the skull card.
the show.
The skull says a avatar of death appears in an unoccupied space as close to you as possible. The avatar targets only you with its attacks, appearing as a ghostly skeleton clad in tattered black robes and carrying a spectral scythe. It disappears if it drops to 0 hit points or you die. If any ally of yours attacks the avatar, that ally gains their own avatar of death that attacks them. The new avatar appears at a close space to them. You and your allies can only have one each. The creature cannot, if you are slain by it, you cannot be restored to life. So it's a pretty bad one.
Yeah, you just did.
Hey. I mean, it kind of sounds like the Surreal though, with like the tattered robes. And
I'll
Well,
give
we
it
know
one
what
more
happened there.
shuffle.
Well, before we get
draw
into
my
the
Wait, Kyle has
cards
to
that-
draw.
I just so you know, I picked 13. That's
Yes,
my
I knew
lucky
it.
number, so I went with it.
Taylor
I
Swift.
got the Jester.
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
of course you did.
So you have advantage for the next 72 hours,
nice.
or you can draw 2 additional cards.
Do it.
do it for the pod. Do it for the pod.
Dang, nabbit it.
Dying wish,
What are,
Kyle.
your what are your other two?
Oh my gosh.
What numbers are you
What are my other 2? I guess I'll just do 13 once more and then 13 again. There's enough of them. 13. I got the Knight card.
Ooh, that's got to be good.
Wow.
You gain the service of a knight who magically appears next to you, and he has the same alignment as you and serves you loyally until death, believing the two of you have been drawn together by fate.
Kale.
Sounds romantic.
Yeah.
Kale!
This for you, Kyle. Oh,
Back
that's
again.
right.
I also got the Moon card,
Wow.
which
Sun and moon.
I have to roll a die for.
Oh.
But they're
luckily-
conveniently on his desk.
They're all
because-
nearby. Yeah.
I also have mine right
This is
next to me.
fun. Oh.
I rolled a 4, which means I get to cast Wish twice and make 2
What?
wishes.
That's insane.
What?
Wish means you can pick like anything literally and it happens.
Yeah, and like
Like,
for people who don't
literally.
play D&D, you just make a wish and the DM has to
Wild.
make it happen in one way or another. Like it is you could literally alter the
anything.
world.
The whole world.
Can you wish for my skull to go away?
Yes.
I could. Yeah, I
Yes,
could
do
actually
that.
wish that
Connor's
we
alive.
never drew could wish that we never drew any cards at all if I wanted to.
Wow.
That's crazy, dude.
You could literally just wish that the big bad of your campaign is dead, and then
Yeah,
it's
if
over.
you want to be a real jerk to your DM,
I mean,
you
I'm
could
just
do
saying,
that.
like, you could literally wish anything. You just change it. That's wild.
Wow.
You guys should play
Get
D&D with
two
us.
of
You guys
them.
seem to have fun. See?
Okay.
Just saying. That's what
Yeah,
it's like,
a little
guys.
preview there.
Just this whole card thing when they, were leading up to starting to pull the cards or whatever. I was on the edge. I was reading this at work in between classes, coaching classes. And I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely insane. Had me on the edge of my seat. It's just so good.
So I've been keeping a thoughts and theories separate list. So I knew we were having an episode about it and I want to try to keep track of it all. So I'm not thinking about it later. And so this has been one of mine where I feel like weirdly in the next between now and the end of the series, each one of these weird things that they drew is somehow going to show up even
for sure.
in some way. And so I wrote down all of them. So Mira got wine and Marin her two orange tunics. Dane got a slap to the face.
2 orange tunics.
So funny that Dane got a slap to the face. Garrick got a rusted steel bucket. Arik got a fractured hand mirror that immediately cuts his thumb, which I feel like is also telling in that moment. Xaden got an empty glass box the size of his foot with pewter hinges and edges. Violet got a broken compass. Riddick got a loud kiss onto each of his cheeks.
Which I put was such a deserving gift.
Yeah, love Riddick.
As he should.
Well, the fact that Dane gets a slap to his face and Riddick gets kissed, I feel like, yes. Kat got a gold necklace with a dangling ruby the size of Violet's thumb. Drake got the mewling kitten. And then, obviously, Traeger got an arrow. But I do feel like all of them will, at some point, come into play somehow. I don't know how.
Well, not for Traeger.
I mean, it did.
It already did, yeah.
It was just immediate. Yeah.
I put a GIF in there after that comment of like a skeleton in the middle of a living room, and it just slowly tilts over till it falls over. It hits its head on the side of a couch or something. It's pretty funny.
The crazy thing is someone had to be ready for it. So what other things? Some dude was ready to shoot anyone with an arrow at any given moment, and I kind of wonder what other things they had set up in the stadium to be it's your job if this card is drawn,
Yep. Some guy's holding a piano over top of the whole group, and he's like, "Oh, not me today." He's holding the rope off the side.
He's sweating trying to keep it keep
Put it on a rope.
Because there's one guy holding a piano.
Exactly. A whole
that
grand
morning,
piano.
that other guy's like, "I need a kitten now. I need to get one
They're here
for the ceremony."
There's an animal shelter there just for this purpose.
It's funny. And then he keeps it in his tunic, which is funny.
Yeah. But to your point about this, yes, I as soon as Violet got the compass and said it was broken, I wrote, so it's definitely not broken and totally going to be used for something cool and magical later, right? Possibly at sea.
Jack Sparrow's compass.
Anyone.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and
When's what you
also
want most.
I was thinking maybe the things mean something about their person, almost like their signet does, because Xaden gets this empty glass box and he has no soul or something, or maybe eventually everyone will be able to see in and see who he really is, or that kind of Jon. So I don't know. And then Marin with 2 orange tunics, and she has 2 brothers. The orange tunics are from this island, and they don't have really a home. I don't know. I've thought a ton about
And
all
Mira
of these and what it could
wines.
mean and whatever. So
It's really funny.
Or she just needs a drink.
yeah,
We needed it. She says that too.
Here's
She's
all
like,
these
I could
kids.
use this. She walks back to the group. He's like, good.
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm excited for those to
something.
come back
So
into
I'm
play at
on
some point.
watch for every single one of these things for forever.
Yes.
So
I love it.
So that takes us to chapter 39, where obviously Traeger dies by an arrow, which was super shocking. We kind of talked about it earlier a little bit. But I think the thing that got me more than Traeger's death necessarily was Kat's reaction to it, and just her, Drake literally holding her back and trying to help muffle her sounds. And then it says Drake's face crumples for the length of a heartbeat as he whispers in her ear, and then her feet stop kicking and she sags against his chest, which is probably similar to what Xaden is telling Violet, you have to hold it together because or his death is for nothing, and all this stuff. And just Kat accepting that in that moment, it's just a hard moment for her, and she just went through all this stuff with Xaden and finally got over him and just finally finding happiness for this to happen. And Traeger had been waiting for her for so long and pining after her forever. So just really disappointed for them.
Because this isle, they have their a little bit of magic back, and all of the flyers are mostly minor magic wielders, and she's just really good at that specific type of minor magic. Do you think because she is really good with heightening people's emotions, that she has some sort of a sense for it, and that when Traeger died, she could sense his love for her ending, and that's why she was like also so
Kyle,
like it was
so
a tangible feeling for
That
her.
made it so much worse.
I was just curious if you thought that would, like, does she actually feel the emotions about
I know, I'm
Wasn't
feeling
trying
the
to-
emotions right now. That's so depressing.
That's so sad. I was honestly a little more emotional about his griffin dying.
Oh, yeah, that was sad too.
At least on the reread. Like, I was
Yeah.
just paying more attention to, is it Cyrillare? Is that his griffin's name? But that was so sad. Like, and how all the other, like, dragons and griffins were reacting and, like, crowding around just to kind of shield her in that moment. And
She's just trying to get
really
to Traeger
I
and
know.
stuff. Yeah, I didn't cry on my first read or this read. It just happened so fast.
I'm kind of surprised. Yeah.
I feel like, and it just like literally was like end of chapter, oh my gosh, and then the beginning of the next chapter, and then like 2 seconds later, they are all acting as if they're okay, and obviously like there's a
Yeah.
moment, but I felt like almost myself reading it was like, okay, you can't cry about this, you have to hold it together. I was part of the group trying to hold it all in to be strong, so his death wasn't in vain.
Amazing.
So I held it together for
proud.
Traeger. Well, they finally make camp, and they decide to just like sleep out there in the middle of that field. Like they were not going to accept anything from these people and potentially whatever craziness that happens, which totally does give Orange Dragon vibes. I'm just saying, like the craziness of this place and all the things.
You're right. Yeah.
But Tarn says while he's like half asleep, and he's like, well, at least we're already with the enemy. And Violet's like, go back to sleep. Zayden isn't the enemy. He's been infected by it. And I'm like, okay, first of all, Violet, you're delusional. But second of all, I'm just like, Tarn! Because like, he's just calling out Zayden and just, he's so anti-Zayden in this chapter section. It's crazy to me. I mean, it's valid, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then at the last line of this section or this chapter was Zayden saying, there's no cure for me. That's why you have to become better than me. There's only you. And my note here was like, Zayden, stop. Both of you, Taryn and Zayden, stop. Everybody just be happy and in great relationships and stuff.
I mean, he's being nice.
Is he? He's just self-deprecating or whatever. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it just makes me nervous that he's always like, you're the only one that is capable of killing me, and you have to be able to kill me. Like,
Yep.
that always makes me nervous. So, chapter 40, our last chapter of this section, starting with the pre-chap.
Pre-chap. You're muted.
You're muted, honey.
Oh, I thought he was taking a breath for it.
Oh,
I actually wasn't making any sound at all.
Oh, okay.
You're muted.
I thought you were like
That's fun.
winding up for a big one.
Yeah. So it's like inhaling everything with his mouth. Oh, that was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I didn't catch this on my first read, but in this little epigraph, it's a present day public notice because it's in like 634, but it says conscription rates are hereby doubled for each province until further notice. So Basgiath is now drafting double the amount of people from every province in Navarre, which is just a big yikes that I didn't pick up on my first read.
I guess I didn't pick
So
up on
that's
it because I didn't understand the years thing. So here for it now.
Yeah. So that's like present day. I'm assuming because it's the year we're currently in that this is happening while they're all off in the Isles. Like Basgiath is announcing that
Yeah.
while they're gone.
I will say, like, I thought it was sort of like, oh, wow, they're doubling it. But there's another part of me where it's like, I don't even know what the initial number was. So I have no idea what that truly means. I'm sure it's crazy. But I feel like the people in Navarre would generally know, like, yeah, that makes sense. We're, like, in tough times right now. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think they mentioned it was like there were thousands of conscripts like on day one. Yeah.
But it's also interesting that like each pre-chap usually is somehow connected to the chapter itself in some way. Like not always, I guess, but like some weird connection, even if it's not super, super obvious. So why is this one here when they meet the Irids? Like it just feels really random.
Yeah, that's why
Like-
that's why I was figuring like maybe this was just supposed to be some kind of nod to what's happening back at Basgiath because
slow news
nobody's
day.
there. Yeah, slow news.
Justinia's like, what
It's
should
the
I
only
put
public
here?
notice
What
they
should
got
I-"
out.
when she's like looking back at the thing.
But I mean, she's back at Basgiath right now. Maybe that was important for whatever was happening there at the
that's
time.
true.
I don't know. My next note is welcome to the Empyrean Series, Broccoli the Cat.
Oh, I was just saying, Broccoli the cat was the most spoiled thing for me while reading this book. Like, of all the things on the internet, it was Broccoli the cat. And like, even in Discord, you changed the Onyx Storm thing to a little broccoli. And like,
The emoji.
yeah, the little emoji. And I was like, there's something to do with broccoli. And then I know there's some cat. I don't know that I connected that it was the same thing, but still, Broccoli the cat.
I just saw a reel about that where somebody was like, it's literally mentioned on like 2 pages out of the 2,000 we've gotten so far in the series, and it's like the most
All
talked
over.
about thing on the internet.
Yes, it is. And there's merch for Broccoli the cat. There's like
Oh, yeah.
everything.
Yes, but the other important piece of Broccoli's story is that Mira and Drake are so in love.
So in love. So there.
Yep. I added to this with their quote when he says, "Just to frustrate you, Soragil," and literally wrote the same thing. Like, they are so in love.
Yeah. Yeah. They're going to raise this cat together. They're going to live happily ever after. I'm here for it.
They've got wine and a cat. They're ready to settle down.
Yep.
So my next note is just, once again, Xaden saying to Violet, I mean it when I say you own my soul. You're the only place I feel completely like me anymore. But like, I get that him feeling like himself
But like,
could be just metaphorical.
Yeah.
But I feel like him literally say, I mean it when I say you own my soul. Just feel like this has to come back at a point in the future where he's going to be like, I literally told you.
They
Like,
can't
I'm
have my soul. You have it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and I think that kind of goes with my note here where Violet kind of puts them all in their little 2-person groups to go explore the smaller islands around the area. And Violet says, like, that's another reason I sent you with Garrick. And he's like, in case I channel. And she says, so you don't, because the last time you did it was because of me, because I'm a trigger. And then Xaden gets like defensive for a really long time too, even after what I've said here, where he's like, you're not a trigger. You're the only thing I can't fathom losing. Wielding to protect you has always been an instinct, but now it's ... uncontrollable. And so my comment here is like, you mean like a trigger? Like, it's a trigger?
Yep.
You just described it. But he goes on for multiple paragraphs talking about how, like, you're not a trigger because I love you so much and all the things, and you're not a trigger. And he says it so many times, but it's like, you're just proving her point.
Earlier in the series, I think I pointed, he did the same thing with something else she said where I was like, you could have just said she was right instead of mansplaining how right she was. I mean, that's all you're doing, really. Like,
Yeah. But I think that goes kind of with your note about maybe her owning his soul and how it's like an instinct to protect her. And now it's almost like an uncontrollable, like there's some weird tie that's more than just their relationship that's making him kind of go wild. So,
Yeah, it just feels a little more than metaphorical at this point with like the way he's saying it and the frequency with which he is saying it. On a completely different note, freaking Atrum. It says Atrum barrels past Taryn out to where the water covers his ankles, sprinting with his wings tucked in tight. And my first read note said, is Atrum Naruto running right now? Like, what is happening? I was really concerned something was wrong with him at first because we were just getting these little snippets of like, what the hell is he doing? And then he douses Riddick in water. And Riddick says, he's getting me back because I won the last round. And I just love that Atrum is literally the dragon version of Riddick. But also this just makes me so much more nervous for both of them.
like, why?
Just because it's like, I don't know, like we're getting more about Riddick's dragon and they're hilarious and like they're so funny together, like their bond. I'm just getting like, I don't know. I just kept getting so nervous for both of them.
wouldn't it be great though if like either one of them is like mortally wounded and the other one's like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, and they run up to them like so worried about it and they're like, God, you idiot, I'm not dead.
That's what would happen.
They would.
100%. Yeah. Well, because like even when Atrum like douses him with water, and for Riddick to be like, "You're such a dick," like, you talk to your dragon that way, like Taryn would never. He would never let that happen. It's just so funny. But whenever he talks about how, you know, Riddick won the last round, it says that he bought enough itching powder to fill a bucket and then dropped it between his scales on the back of his neck right after a flight maneuvers a few weeks ago. He had to submerge his entire body in the river to avoid everyone in the Vale knowing I'd gotten the best of him, which is hilarious. But I wonder if that's like their argument that they were having that one day whenever like whenever Atrum
At the
like
beginning.
like cuts off the rest of everyone and they're just having this weird argument. Like maybe he was trying to hide the fact that this happened to the rest of the people in the Vale or something. And then they
That's
almost
why he blocked out all the dragons.
like I feel like we've all like there's something serious is happening, whatever all the things, but what if it's literally just this prank and he's just trying
That's
to hide
hilarious.
from the rest of the dragons that his writer got the best of him. I like to think that's the answer.
Yes, I love that.
Well, then the Irids show up and they speak to Violet. They speak to her without having a bond, which according to the dragon rules is not good. So that was interesting. That's all.
Can they technically without a bond that we know of?
I don't know.
Well, I'm
I mean,
asking
the only
if
one that
there's
ever
God
did
more.
was...
I was like, I don't know. I mean, maybe, I guess you read it all. I don't know. But either way, she hears like the weird slide whistly thing in her head or whatever it says.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that it sounded like that.
Slide whistle.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And then all of a sudden she can hear him. Yeah.
Hello, human.
Yeah. Whatever
Or as
John
John
said.
said, hello, human.
Yeah.
You're still muted. And
But yes, Violet even says, like, we didn't find the Irids. They found us. And I was like, that was my theory the whole time. It would be a moment that they weren't looking. And it's literally Violet almost like closes her eyes like she's going to take a nap on the beach. And then they show up. And I was like, called it. So I felt good about that. But yes, hello, human.
Good
That's
job.
where we've ended it. So the Irids are there.
okay.
They
Wow.
did it. So we are at like current character thoughts. Gentlemen, where you at? What's going on?
I thought Dane was dead in this section. I thought Riddick was dead. I just didn't foresee anyone dying in the card draw either. So, like, what a roller coaster. It's about time. Arik, where have you been, my guy? She couldn't have written him any better, especially with eating.
Just
that was
eating.
great.
That's all she wrote.
Yeah, it was great. Although I would have expected that type of character development for Riddick, not Arik. But it was still really funny. It's really good. That's all I got.
I love him.
My character notes was literally none, and then I wrote pictured here my mind and a tumbleweed passing over the room. I literally sat here thinking about like, has anything changed for me? Not really. Like I'm still
Yeah, not as much for me either.
There's a lot of action in this section.
Well, it was just like world building island, world building island, world building island. Move
Yeah.
on. Like it was a lot.
Not so much character development happening yet.
Okay, thoughts and theories for the rest of Onyx Storm. We're at 65%. They found the Irids. They have random items. They had some cake. Where you at?
I felt, Kyle, what you felt in the character thing. I feel about the thoughts and theories. I was just like, this is. I have no idea. This is such an intense chapter section and so good. I still think the Irids aren't really gonna help them all that much. I was thinking about it. I feel like they don't really have a reason to help, and I feel like at this point they could just disappear and fly around if the Venom ever do come to the Isles. The one thing I could maybe see is if they want Andarna back, with them, and she makes a deal with them for their help in some way. It'd be okay, I'll come back and stay with you here, and I won't stay on the continent, in exchange for you guys help us with the Venom or whatever. But
So
I don't know.
would
I don't know what that
Violet
means, though,
take?
either.
I mean, Violet's technically been invited to come live on Deverelli, right?
True.
With the Takaris's mansion.
Yeah.
It's just not in.
Or it's the
No,
the
Deverelli
manor,
is the Isle because he's got
his manor or
yeah,
whatever
Yeah.
on the
his summer
islands.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, his summer home. I have one of those now, according to those cards.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right, what do you got, Kyle?
I just said that I was doubling down on the marriage prediction from last episode. We've already heard that. It's just being dangled in front of us, so I have no doubts it'll happen. Probably won't be a stylish marriage. They probably couldn't even afford a carriage, but they might look sweet upon the seat of a dragon made for two. I don't know what's going on with Riddick's close calls with death. Zenal must definitely be on his side or even closer. We sort of talked about this too. It's odd that each island served one of the gods fairly exclusively, and it seems a bit too weird to not have a greater meaning later. And I'm kind of expecting the Irids to just lay a claim to Andarna because she is forced to be with them for whatever reason. To maybe be well, here's the reason. We left the continent and we have future plans for our own brood or whatever. Or just learn the ways of the Irids and the reasons why they weren't with the others and stuff like that. I was expecting, and I am still expecting Stephanie to show up. I was sort of surprised that she didn't through this whole section because they went a lot of places that I figured at least one of them she would be there, or like a letter from her, like she always leaves a note behind or something. So I'd be expecting her to at least show up soon, because she seems to be...
Didn't she like threaten that Violet wouldn't be safe even fleeing the continent or something like that too?
Yeah.
Is that part of her letter?
So that's kind of why I was expecting her or something to show up. But maybe when they go back, something will be waiting for them. I don't know.
I'm excited to read it though. We're into like the end of the book. It's all the good stuff. Cry counter. Nobody cried. So still rocking 3. Connor is still in the lead. I'm so proud of you. Stop being sad about it. This is an achievement. You should be happy. She's got 4, and the boys still have 2.
I'm gonna have to hold back my tears for the rest of the book.
I know I cried during this book. It wasn't this episode, so sorry.
Well, we'll have to see in episode 16 next week, where we will be continuing Onyx Storm with chapters 41 to 50. If you are not subscribed on YouTube and following us on Instagram and TikTok yet, at this point, is you even a friend?
What the heck? Like and subscribe.
We're contractually obligated to stop talking now, but if you thought this was chaotic, you haven't even scratched the surface. Haul your book-loving booty to BetweenPagesAndFriends.com for exclusive Patreon content so extra it had to be contained in its own digital dimension, merch that slaps harder than a plot twist, and links to all our favorite bookish things. Want to know what emotionally devastating stories we're reading next? You can stalk our GoodReads and StoryGraph there as well. We don't mind. We're kind of into it. Until next time, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed.
Talking, you're contractually obligated to stop. Shh.
Rules are meant to be broken.
Heyo. Who brought the bad boy into the chat, right?
Jon, calm down. He's married.
I'm right here.